What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Diesel Creek. My name's Matt. We are just about to pull into one of my favorite places. You guys know what time it is.
When most people watch Diesel Creek on YouTube, they see an easygoing man named Matt Stetar working on huge, rusty machines. They see him turning abandoned dozers, dump trucks, and excavators into working tools again. They see calm explanations, careful repairs, and machines coming back to life after years of sitting in the dirt. But what they don't see is how much patience, struggle, and sacrifice it really takes to make that happen. Matt never set out to be an internet star. He didn't start with a big crew, a fancy workshop, or expensive cameras. He started with almost nothing. Just his tools, a patch of rural Pennsylvania land, and a passion for saving old equipment. Diesel Creek wasn't meant to be a polished brand. It began as a hobby and slowly grew into something people all over the world now watch. The hidden story is not about drama or scandal. It's about the truth behind the scenes. It's about the long days, the jobs that go wrong, and the machines that fight him every step of the way. The truth is, what looks like simple repairs on camera is often the result of hours or even weeks of hard work that most viewers never see. And that's the part of Diesel Creek that people rarely think about. The part Matt doesn't talk about much, but that defines everything he does. Diesel Creek began quietly. Before the channel had hundreds of thousands of subscribers, Matt was just another guy working on machines in his free time. He didn't have a filming plan or a professional setup. In fact, his first videos were filmed on a basic camera or even a phone. They had no fancy graphics, no music, and no special effects. It was simply Matt, standing in the dirt, explaining what he was doing as he fixed something. The challenge in those early days was not the repairs themselves, but getting anyone to notice. YouTube is huge. Thousands of creators upload videos every single day, and only a small fraction get much attention. Some of Matt's first videos were seen by fewer than 50 people. He would spend an entire day repairing a hydraulic leak or rescuing an old machine from the woods, only to have almost no reaction online. Many people would have given up at that point, but Matt didn't. He wasn't doing it for fame or money. He did it because he loved the work. That's something a lot of viewers miss. The fact that every success on Diesel Creek is built on years of quiet effort that nobody was watching at the time. One of the toughest parts of Matt's work is the condition of the machines he takes on. These aren't well-maintained pieces of equipment from auctions. They're often rotting away in fields, buried in mud, or missing major parts. Some have trees growing right through the engine bay. Others have been stripped for parts so badly that bringing them back seems impossible. Restoring them isn't just a matter of changing the oil and replacing a battery. It's weeks of hunting down rare components, fabricating custom pieces, and trying to undo years of neglect. Sometimes the work is physically exhausting. Other times it's mentally draining, as he spends days troubleshooting an issue only to discover an even bigger problem. Viewers see the highlight moments when an engine finally roars to life, but they don't always see the failed attempts, the parts that break again, or the hours spent just trying to free a single rusted bolt. Matt's patience in these situations is one of the things that makes Diesel Creek special. He rarely gives up, even when it feels like the machine is fighting him every step of the way. Working on heavy machinery is already a challenge, but filming the process adds another layer of difficulty. Unlike big TV restoration shows that have full crews, Matt films almost everything himself. That means carrying the camera around, setting it on a tripod, hitting record, doing the work, then stopping to reset the shot. If something exciting happens off camera, it's gone forever. If he forgets to press record, there's no getting that moment back. Sometimes he's in the middle of a tricky repair and has to stop just to adjust the camera angle. This can slow down the work and add extra frustration, especially when he's racing daylight or dealing with bad weather. In the early years, this was even harder because he was still figuring out the best ways to film while working. Now, viewers might take for granted that the process looks smooth, but behind the scenes, It's a constant balancing act between being a mechanic and being a cameraman. It's one of those hidden struggles that doesn't show up on screen, but plays a huge role in every video. Some of the projects on Diesel Creek became turning points for the channel. One of the most memorable was the revival of an old International TD7 dozer. When Matt found it, it had been sitting in the woods for years, sinking into the mud. The tracks were locked, the engine was worn out, and most people would have sent it straight to the scrapyard. But Matt saw potential. He spent hours freeing stuck parts, cleaning out the fuel system, and getting the engine to turn over. When it finally roared back to life through a cloud of smoke, viewers flooded the comments with excitement. Another huge project was the restoration of a KT955 loader that hadn't run in over 20 years. The engine bay was full of rodent nests, the hydraulics were shot, and the fuel tank was full of water. Even after days of work, it refused to start. But instead of quitting, Matt tore it down and started again, and eventually got it running. That persistence became a trademark of the channel, and a big reason viewers kept coming back. Among Diesel Creek's most popular rescues was a massive Detroit-powered dump truck. It had been sitting so long that it looked like part of the landscape, rust eating away at the body and tires completely flat. Most people would have called it a lost cause. Matt didn't. He towed it home, cleaned it up, and began the long process of bringing the engine back to life. This meant flushing out oil, replacing filters, and breaking loose parts that hadn't moved in decades. When it finally started, the sound was pure power, loud, raw, and alive again. What made this special was that Matt didn't just restore it to sell it. He put it to work. Today, that dump truck hauls gravel and dirt around his property, proving that these old machines still have a place if someone's willing to save them. It's this rescue and reuse approach that sets Diesel Creek apart from many other channels. The machines aren't just for show, they're part of his working fleet. One of the reasons fans respect Diesel Creek is that Matt doesn't hide the tough parts. If something doesn't work, he shows it. If a repair fails, it's part of the video. This honesty makes the channel feel different from others that only show perfect results. Viewers see that sometimes weeks of work lead to nothing, or that a machine may never run again despite his best efforts. But there's always something to learn from the process, and Matt treats failure as just another step in figuring things out. This approach not only builds trust with his audience, but also reminds people that real mechanical work isn't always about instant success. It's a grind, and it's not for everyone, but for Matt, it's worth it. At its core, Diesel Creek is about more than just machinery. It's about patience, problem solving, and finding value in things others have given up on. Whether it's a dozer stuck in the woods or a truck buried in rust, Matt shows that almost anything can be brought back with enough skill and determination. That's the part of Diesel Creek you might not realize at first. It's not just entertainment for heavy equipment fans, it's a quiet reminder of what persistence looks like. The thing Matt Stetar didn't want you to know isn't a secret scandal. It's that behind every satisfying engine start are countless hours of struggle, mistakes, and hard work. And that's the real story that makes Diesel Creek worth watching. As time went on, whispers about Elizabeth Taylor's diary began to fade from public memory. Many assumed it was simply a rumor, perhaps an exaggerated tale passed along by gossip columnists. But in truth, the diary remained hidden in a private collection, locked away like a treasure no one dared to touch. That all changed when the collection's owner, an elderly family friend, decided it was time for the world to see Elizabeth's own words. This person believed that the diary was not just a celebrity's personal keepsake. It was a historical document, a piece of Hollywood history that could give insight into the pressures, heartbreaks, and triumphs of an icon. They contacted a respected biographer, someone trusted not to twist Elizabeth's words for cheap headlines, and arranged for a careful reading. The decision to release the diary was not made lightly. There was fear that certain revelations might hurt reputations or reignite old controversies, but there was also the belief that hiding the truth would be a greater injustice to Elizabeth's memory. When the first excerpts were read aloud, those in the room fell silent. Elizabeth's handwriting was elegant yet full of emotion, the ink slightly faded but still powerful. She wrote about the loneliness that often followed her, even during the height of her fame. She confessed that she sometimes felt trapped by the image the public had of her, the glamorous beauty, the untouchable movie star, when in reality she longed for a simpler life, one where she could walk down the street without flashbulbs and gossip following her every move. Her words painted a picture of a woman both strong and fragile, someone who faced the world with grace while quietly battling her own storms. There were entries about her marriages, some filled with passion and joy, others with frustration and regret. She admitted mistakes, but she also expressed deep love for those who had touched her life, even when the relationships ended painfully. These diary pages revealed not the Elizabeth Taylor people thought they knew, but the Elizabeth who existed behind closed doors. The most surprising part of the diary was not the glamorous parties or the famous names she mentioned. It was the raw honesty. Elizabeth did not sugarcoat her struggles with health, fame, or love. She wrote about nights when she cried herself to sleep, days when she didn't want to leave her bed, and moments when she questioned whether all the fame was worth the cost. But she also wrote about hope. She described how the birth of her children gave her a reason to keep going, how her friendships with certain co-stars were genuine sources of strength, and how moments of quiet, sitting in a garden, watching the ocean, were more valuable to her than any award she had ever received. This combination of vulnerability and resilience made the diary not just a Hollywood artifact, but a deeply human story. Those who read it felt a sense of closeness to Elizabeth, as if she had finally spoken to them directly, without the filters of the media or the pressure of her public image. In the weeks after the diary's contents began to spread, the public's perception of Elizabeth Taylor shifted once again. She had always been admired for her beauty and talent, but now people saw her as a woman who had endured pain, loss, and isolation while still maintaining her dignity. Social media buzzed with quotes from her diary, and even younger generations, who had only known her as a name from old films, found themselves inspired by her words. Historians noted that this was one of the rare times a celebrity's private writings actually enhanced their legacy rather than tarnished it. The diary did not expose scandals for shock value. Instead, it revealed truths that made Elizabeth more relatable and beloved. It was a reminder that even those who seem to have everything can feel the weight of the world. And that honesty, especially from someone of her stature, has the power to heal not only the writer, but also the reader. Elizabeth's diary had been locked away for decades, but its message was timeless. Strength is not the absence of struggle, but the courage to keep going despite it. Elizabeth Taylor's diary has not only reshaped public perception of her personal life, but has also influenced how we view Hollywood history. Before these revelations, much of the world saw Taylor as a glamorous movie star whose life was a mixture of beauty, romance, and scandal. However, her own words added depth, showing her as a human being navigating love, betrayal, ambition, and pain. Her diary humanized her beyond the headlines, revealing that she wasn't just reacting to Hollywood's pressures. She was actively trying to control her own story in an industry that often silenced women. For many fans and historians, this was a moment of truth, a reminder that even the most dazzling icons face struggles that money and fame cannot erase. It also highlighted how important it is for celebrities to leave behind personal accounts, as they often show a side of history that official media narratives ignore. One of the most powerful effects of the diary's discovery is how it reframed Elizabeth Taylor's famous relationships. For decades, her love life had been a favorite subject of tabloids, with stories about her marriages to Richard Burton, Eddie Fisher, and others filling gossip columns. But in her diary, Taylor described these romances in her own way, sometimes with longing, sometimes with regret, and sometimes with sharp honesty about her mistakes. Instead of being a woman swept up in drama, her writing showed her as a person making choices, learning from them, and sometimes suffering